Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet, live here on this Thursday morning. Shout out to one of our listeners, Dan Behan. Is it Behan?
Behan.
We got it.
Behan. Says that he found the show just before the SEC Championship and just kept watching. Welcome in, Danny boy.
Thank you. Even
Thank
though
you
we
for,
haven't touched on college football one time today. Thank you.
And the best college football show in America.
I know.
I would doubt that, but thank you for the
Jordy,
compliment.
it's true.
We'll take that.
All right. But welcome in, Dan. And thank you for being out there. I appreciate you coming on board. And look, make sure and hit that like button, share button, comment button. We're about to be joined here by Billy Embody. And we were talking about the Bayou Bash earlier. And it's got me reminiscing this morning. It's got me all up in my feels, remembering the day, going back to the Bayou Bash, how it started early, ended late. And I was telling Katie and Stewie and Jamil, who have really kind of like started to take interest in wondering why nobody can bring this thing back. I don't think that it can be resuscitated. I don't think that it can ever be brought back to life, especially in the form that it was at one time, because now that the signing days are split up.
You don't
But
think
we
you
could
could
do something.
I mean, you would have to do it like in December.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It would change.
That
It
would
would
be
almost
a-
like turn into a Christmas party.
There you
Hey,
go.
Coach,
there you go.
that's
That's
a
the move
move.
right there. Don't you threaten me with planning a Christmas party. Don't you threaten me.
But the deal is that it starts early.
Yeah,
You know, what I
and
mean,
like-
that's you
That's
gotta.
fine.
And like a lot of the guys are committed already. That's what makes it hard.
Yeah, but there's still been a little bit of sense of that, but definitely not to the drama. To the drama that exists back in the day. But Chico Moore, who is a great dude, first and foremost, he would be a great resource for the Bayou Bash. He was, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the president of the Gridirons Club at the time. And I can always remember the Bayou Bash, seeing Chico Moore like run around like he was always doing something. I mean, he always was like on a mission to get something done, whether it was opening something for somebody, getting somebody to a space, making sure the right people were at the right place, doing the right stuff, the tickets were being handed out. I mean, it was always Chico Moore could get it done. So maybe we'll get Chico Moore on the show
Hook
and
me
let
up
him.
with Chico and let me plan it with him.
He did own the Exxon on the corner of Florida Boulevard and would that be Interline right there that runs along the side of the interstate? And there was that Exxon, that big Exxon.
Yeah.
He may still own that Exxon, and he used to keep an LSU Cadillac out front, like it was painted LSU. I mean, he is an LSU diehard.
Right, clearly.
He is a great storyteller of LSU athletics. I mean, he is a historian in the sense of he has seen, I want to say like him and Mike Serio did not miss a football game, for like 40 years, home and away.
Wow.
I mean, like,
I need to meet him.
that is a commitment.
Yeah,
man.
that is. Jeez.
Shout out to, we got Bill? Babyface Bill?
Babyface Bill.
You're babyface Jordy today.
Bill, good morning.
Guys, how are you?
Billy, do you remember the Bayou Bash?
I went to the last Bayou Bash splash that they had. It was down at the River Center.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, that was the last time they tried it.
Do you
I think
remember
it
the
was
year?
O's first year.
Okay, so
O's first year.
O's
Oh,
first
they
year.
moved it
right?
to the River Center?
Yeah,
so
no.
it became that big?
Or it was
The atrium.
what's the atrium?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You can't do anything like that around recruiting anymore, right? Not just because of the legal standpoint. I'm just saying because like being split now in the days and the signing periods, and a lot of these guys are committed now. I mean, could this thing even exist present day?
Yeah, it could. I would probably have them do it around the real national signing day, the February one, just from the standpoint of then you can talk about everyone and kind of go into that and just celebrate the end of it, because February 1st next week is National Sign Day, and these coaches are gonna go celebrate. I mean, they're done. They've been more so than ever this year. This is the longest recruiting cycle that they've ever been through from the beginning of December until, National Signing Day. I was talking to another SEC coach, and he said, we've just hosted kids left and right. We've hosted transfers left and right. It has not stopped. And then you factor in a bowl game, and there was no time. I mean, the recruiting calendar has to get fixed, but that's another story. But these guys are genuinely going to be excited to celebrate their class. And granted, would they like to just go do it by themselves? Maybe, but having an actual, a Bayou Bash and celebrating this recruiting class would be something that would be welcomed. And, as, more and more in-person events kind of start to get going again and things like that, this would be a good thing to bring back in that sense. I think, getting people together to talk about recruiting classes, and especially those maybe away from the podium times that you might get with an assistant or Brian Kelly as a fan, would be pretty cool. Ask them a question that, maybe a media member doesn't, or get a response that, the public might not get. These are fun events. I would love to see them be brought back. You just got to drum it up the right way. They've done caravans here and there too. Some schools still do those. And I think those are good to get out and hit your major cities and talk about the recruiting class. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's got to be done the right way to, bring up the intrigue around it and kind of get people out and excited.
All right.
Hell
Billy's
yeah.
voting
I'm
for
on
bringing
it.
it back.
I'm
Katie's,
on it.
her eyes are lighting up.
Chico and I are on it.
I love it. Omar Spites earlier this week. It's Spites or Spates?
I say Spates.
Okay.
But, maybe somebody can look that up
No,
for us.
somebody was correcting me earlier this week. I'm going with Spates.
Yeah.
They have cleaned up in the transfer portal once again, Billy. Now that you've almost got a clear collection of everybody that they are bringing in, this signing class with transfers and enrollees have kind of taken shape here. What do you make of the new faces that will land in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, this is a really good group. I think it addresses so many needs at a very high level, and there are still spots to be had for LSU to add more players. I still think they want to find an offensive lineman along the interior to bring in. They offered Ja'Kai Clark, the Miami offensive line transfer. They're still on more linebackers. That's a position that needs to be shored up. And Nick Jackson is one where he's the top available, uncommitted transfer linebacker in the country. He made multiple all ACC appearances as a first teamer, I believe, and he's transferring from Virginia. LSU has some ties there. They're going to try and see if they can get a visit. Auburn's hosted him. Oklahoma's hosted him. Iowa's hosted him. Those are some of the schools that are in play for Nick Jackson. So they still have roughly 6 spots or so to play with. I still think they need linebacker help. Wouldn't shock me if a good safety entered the portal and they decide to jump in on him. Those are some of the positions I think they'd love to address. But as far as who they have hit every position with at least one player. It seems like that can shore it up, between the signing class and the transfer portal. And in the transfer portal, you saw them really address the defensive line and secondary, which was so important. And getting Omar Spates is just huge. From that depth perspective and production perspective at linebacker too. That gives you somebody you can kind of lean on, who has done it for multiple years. I mean, 300 plus tackles over 4 seasons. He's had some picks, had some, fumble recoveries, stacked the quarterback. He's just kind of done a little bit of everything, and he was first team all Pac-12. So when you bring up Omar Spates, I mean, that was a big win for LSU at a big position of need.
Signing him allows you to keep Perkins in place, right? Did they have plans of moving Perkins? What do you hear of how they use Perkins in year 2?
Yeah, I think with the linebacker position, you're going to want to see Harold probably move around a little bit more than he did, maybe jump into more of an off-the-ball linebacker spot at times to get him some of those reps, to get him developed at that spot, which is where I think that his natural progression should be. Eventually, you want him to be in the middle. Granted, he could kind of be used maybe as and he's not this type of a physical build, but like a Micah Parsons that kind of plays all over. You want him to be able to be off the ball a little bit more, just from a scheme perspective and all the different things you can do if he's able to do that. But Omar Spates coming in allows him to stay at that spot where he's a little bit more naturally comfortable in terms of moving around and just, saying go. He kind of reminds me of Marcel Brooks in that sense, the way they used him. I think Harold's got a little bit bigger upside than Marcel did, but that was what they ended up doing with Marcel in year one, was just say, go get the quarterback. And that's what they had to kind of do with Marcel, but Harold's got a little bit more of an upside to play off the ball linebacker and move into that role eventually full time. If they want him to, they can move him around, like I said earlier, but Omar Speights allows him a little bit more time to just kind of ease into that.
So, Billy, do they have a time off, coaches, now? I mean, look, I'm not one to make excuses or, be overly critical of coaches being overworked because of I mean, this is a high-paying, demanding job, but, I mean, there has to be some relief on a schedule, right? Is it coming up for these guys?
I think it's probably right after signing day. They get a little bit of time, but in reality, you are doing some planning for spring ball. Mm-hmm. You're in a dead period for recruiting, so you don't have to be on as much. But then you're into spring ball, and you're into, after that, spring evaluation period in mid-April to late May, and then you're into camps and official visits, and then you have that 4th of July kind of dead period, and then into July. I mean, July is basically your only time where you can't host prospects. You don't have to, be around the players, and you don't have game planning to do. It's a few weeks. So this upcoming time where they would get some time off after signing day, they can't necessarily go take a vacation and do any of that unless they're, kidless or whatever. But it is a job that is just overworking these coaches, and a lot of it makes sense to me. And I used to say, well, you want these kids on campus as much as possible. You want them around the coaches and learning about the program, but it's become such a show now with, for example, like freshmen and sophomores hitting campus, doing a photo shoot, getting in the jersey. Right. You're not even getting as much football in there, or all they want to do is just take a picture in the jersey and maybe meet the coaches. But I think something's got to be fixed in that respect, because these guys just they don't have any time off, and a lot of it, freshman to sophomore year recruiting, when you have them on campus, I mean, it might impact a little bit, but it's not going to do anything, in terms of a final decision. I don't think it maybe puts you in position with a couple kids to be in the mix all the way through, but these guys are just getting overworked. They're on the road all the time. If they're not game planning, if they're not in practice, they're on the road. They're hosting kids. The support staffs have helped in terms of touring kids around, but it's kind of a rotation. While they're doing that, they're meeting with another kid about how they fit into the program on these visits. It's just the NFL, I mean, has so much time off, and obviously those guys don't even deal with personnel. That so many guys now, the contracts are great, but most assistants are still, for the most part, on a 1-year contract. So might pay well, but you're not guaranteed much beyond 1 year as an assistant. So we're starting to see a little bit of a trend to guys leaving to the NFL. And I think the NCAA's got to figure out the recruiting calendar a little bit better, move up early signing day, have only a transfer window in terms of visits. That's December, so only transfers can visit in December, and then a little bit in January. Make January, dead, and honestly have April be your late signing period. That way, colleges could even see what they have in the spring and see if they need to press for players late. But because there's no break, there could be a break from January and February. Instead, you're seeing it just go all the way through, and it just doesn't help these guys long term live quality lives despite the money.
That's right. I agree. A little off of college football before I get you out of here. LSU basketball puts up 40 in a road loss the other night. Another road loss for McMahon and the crew. I don't think anybody had really high expectations in year one. I also don't believe that anybody anticipated it being as bad as it's been over the last couple of games. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you expect here in basketball?
Yeah, I think looking back on the roster construction, one of the big questions was shooting, and it has not been good this year, and so I think that's been a big issue. They don't have anyone you can count on by any means, and I don't think athletically they were constructed well enough to compete in the SEC. I mean, and this is no disrespect to the guys, but some of them coming over from McMahon's previous stop, and it just they don't match up, and they even went out and got some lower level guys to kind of come in from other schools. It just hasn't worked out the way. I mean, you looked at it and you thought, okay, well, Juice Hill's been in the SEC, or they've had Cam Hayes, NC State, Trey Hannibal, came over from Murray and he was good, and KJ Williams, same story. But then they had added some guys that were kind of like, just plugs, and not necessarily in a high quality way. The recruiting class that they finished with, you'd like to think that those guys develop and figure it out, and they've got some athletes in that last class that can get it done. With Tyrell Ward and Jalen Reed maybe, but Cornelius Williams was someone that was committed to them at Murray, and hasn't. We'll see kind of how he develops, but it's just they've got to athletically get better in the future. That's the big thing that I'm seeing is they just don't have the athletes right now to really go night in, night out in the SEC, and that's the issue.
Joey B and Jamar in the AFC Championship game for the second consecutive season. Mahomes, he looks hurt physically. Vegas thinks he's hurt because of the odds that they're putting out. What do you think about championship weekend in the NFL?
Yeah, I like Joey B and Jamar to get it done. Get another. I think it would be fourth straight over Mahomes. And look, we'll see. I mean, Mahomes is somebody that you can't count out. I don't care what really people are saying and how many times the Bengals have now beat them in a row. But Burrow he's just, we know this. He's stone-blooded, a stone-cold killer out there. I mean, these are the type of games that he gets up for. His comment after, send those refunds. I mean, that's classic Joe, in my opinion. So I like Burrow and Jamar to get it done and move on to another Super Bowl. And I think they'll face the Eagles. That's what I've got.
One more before I get you out of here, Billy. Back to college football recruiting real quick. One name here in the spring to watch out for that you're looking forward to most seeing, whether it's a transfer or early enrollee.
One name, I would probably say Denver Harris. I watched him a ton in high school. Really, really liked, what LSU had in terms of recruiting him out of high school, and just one of the best corner prospects I've seen in a while. So I'm excited to see him get out and move around and kind of start, working his way back into playing and doing all those things. I'm really excited about Denver, and then Deshaun Womack out of the high school ranks. I can't wait to see what he does.
Is Womack they anticipating him like day one type guy?
I think so. He's physically, by the time 8 months goes by, he's gonna really toned up that body even more. But physically, he's ready to go. He's big enough to play. It's just a matter of just getting it a little bit stronger and getting him in that nutrition program. But that's why you bring in Braden Swinson. That's why you bring in Ovie Agofu to kind of sell him and allow him to kind of develop. But I think they see Deshaun Womack as a day one guy.
Zalance Hurd too?
I think Zalance has it in him. There's a lot of competition all of a sudden on that offensive line, and where he could plug in is kind of a question, but I could see him. I think he's trending towards a guy that can start day one at right tackle if the chips fall the right way.
Have a great weekend, Billy. Good to see you as always, man. Thank you.
Sounds good. You guys too. Thanks for having me.
Billy Embody from On3. Easy to find his work, whether it's on Twitter or online. Check him out there at Billy Embody. Appreciate him stopping by. Conversation brought to you by RMB Builders. We appreciate our friends over at RMB Builders, Rhett Bourgeois and his crew over at RMB. Right now, quality work, always quality work. You can find on Instagram if you want to check them out on social media. and you can find them online at rmb-builders.com. But if you're looking to custom design a home, if you're looking to refurbish a home, if you need some addition to a home, or if you need some commercial work, if you need anything done around the office, check out RMB Builders, rmb-builders.com. We'll be back with more of the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll close it out when we get back here. Driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.